Before making Jacksonville, Florida your next home, there are a few fun and not so fun facts you need to know. In today's video, I'll give you the good, the bad, and even the ugly about living in our city. You do not want to miss it. Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in today. If this is your first time watching, this channel is all about what it's like living in or around Jacksonville, Florida. Now on to today's topic. Living in or around Jacksonville, Florida offers quite a few unique experiences, and relocating can be an exciting adventure, but it's important to be aware of some aspects that may or may not appeal to everyone. Here are 15 facts potential newcomers might not like but need to know. And stick around for number 15 because I'll be answering one of the strangest questions I get from future residents. Number 1, hot and humid climate. One of the biggest reasons people move to Florida is, of course, the warmer weather. Jacksonville does experience a pretty hot and humid climate, which can be uncomfortable if you're not used to those conditions. The worst of it, of course, is during the summer months, but just know that the high humidity can start as early as March and go all the way until about October. You can literally get out of your car to walk into a store and be soaked with sweat by the time you get inside. If you're from an area that doesn't have that level of humidity, you should definitely expect to take a couple of seasons to get acclimated. And it's very important when you do spend time outdoors that you stay hydrated. Number 2, hurricanes and tornadoes. Being in Florida, Jacksonville is prone to hurricanes. The hurricane season runs from June to November, and us Floridians just look at it as part of the package. And while we do take precautions and stay prepared, it's not really something we constantly worry about. Luckily with hurricanes, we get plenty of notice if one is headed our way. And we tend to be pretty fortunate here in the Northeast. The hurricanes, a lot of the time, go right around us. Now, on the other hand, especially during the summer months, we can get some pretty nasty thunderstorms with high winds, heavy rain, and the occasional tornado. In fact, just this last summer, a tornado went right by my house. It took down some good-sized trees in our backyard, one of which ended up in our pool. It sucked up our very large patio umbrella and we never saw it again. But thankfully it did miss the house and there was no major damage, but definitely a bit of a scary situation and something to be aware of. I always recommend keeping trees trimmed or taking them out if you think they could fall onto a structure, and just take precautions during severe storms. For example, securing items on your patio. Number 3, high humidity and home maintenance. The high humidity can not only be uncomfortable for us, but it can also adversely affect your home. It does require more maintenance to prevent mold, mildew, and fungus. So you want to make sure your home has proper ventilation, especially in places like bathrooms. Change out AC filters on a regular basis and check frequently for mold or mildew growth in crawl spaces or attics so it can be taken care of before it becomes a problem by leading to wood decay. Number 4, traffic congestion. As you may have heard, Jacksonville is the largest city by landmass in the continental US. And with its sprawling layout, most residents do have to commute to and from work. Jacksonville can have significant traffic congestion, especially during rush hours. For example, it could take you close to an hour to go about 20 miles. Now, this has a lot to do with your perspective. Obviously, if you're coming from a much larger metro area, you might find the traffic here to be fairly light, but just be sure to consider routes and commute times when deciding where to live. Number 5, Limited public transportation. I'll be totally honest, Jacksonville does not have great public transportation options. You're limited to public buses, which is JTA, and they're notorious for being unreliable, which does make it challenging to get around without a car. Again, because our city is so spread out. So having your own car and one that gets decent gas mileage should be considered in your budget. Number 6, allergies. The high pollen count, especially during spring, can be tough for allergy sufferers. My husband is one of them. There are certain times of year where we get daily dustings of pollen all over everything. And if you're new to the area and you find yourself congested or getting bad headaches or sinus pressure, you might feel like you're getting a cold, but it could very well be allergies. Number 7, high homeowners insurance. So due to the risk of hurricanes and severe storms that lead to roof damage, homeowners insurance rates can be high here. The Florida insurance market has been extremely volatile over the last several years, with prices skyrocketing and the requirements a property has to meet to get coverage are getting more and more strict. If you're planning to buy a home, I highly recommend getting quotes up front during your due diligence period. And be sure that you understand how hurricane and flood policies work. Hi everyone, Andrea here. Thanks so much for watching today. Sorry to interrupt, but if you're enjoying this content, please take a second to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel and gets my videos out to other people just like you. And if you're thinking about moving anywhere in the Jacksonville area, give me a call or text anytime. I'm always happy to answer your questions or give some guidance. My contact information is always in the description below. Now let's get back to the video. Number 8, risk of flooding. Speaking of flood policies, here's the cold hard truth. The entire state of Florida is considered to be in a flood zone. We're surrounded by water, but certain areas in Jacksonville are more prone to flooding, particularly during hurricane season. The key is checking on the FEMA website to see what risk zone your property is in. And if you're in a higher risk flood zone, you may be required to carry extra flood insurance. However, it may not necessarily be as much as you might think. It can be as little as a few $100s a year. So don't think of it as a deal breaker, but be sure to get all the information up front. Number 9, crime rates. Some areas of Jacksonville, as with any other city, do have higher crime rates, which can be a concern for safety. Now, as a licensed realtor, I'm prohibited by equal housing laws from giving any opinions on what might be considered a safe or not so safe area of town. I can, however, provide you with several resources to research this information yourself. And I always recommend driving through the neighborhood in person whenever possible, and even talking to other residents who can tell you about their experience. Number 10, tourist crowds. A lot of areas in Florida are considered top vacation destinations, Jacksonville and its surrounding areas included. So naturally, popular spots can get crowded with tourists, especially during peak season. Now, as a native resident, I do tend to avoid quite a few of the more crowded public places at certain times of year. There are places like historic downtown St. Augustine, which is just crowded all year round. But as with anything else, you just learn either avoid certain places and activities or accept the fact that you will likely encounter crowds, traffic, and higher wait times. Number 11, flat landscape. Big surprise, Florida is mostly flat, which may disappoint those who enjoy mountains or a varied landscape. Not a whole lot we can do about this one. However, I think you'll find, even though it's flat here in Northeast Florida, we have our share of natural beauty, from the oceans and rivers to the marshes and forests. And in my opinion, there's no shortage of beautiful scenery. And one of the great things about our location is we are just a day's drive away from some beautiful mountains. Number 12, lack of seasonal change. The warmer climate means there is little change in seasons here, which might be a downside for those who enjoy a more varied climate. Now, unlike areas of South Florida, we do experience a bit more of a swing in temperatures, and we do have several months out of the year with what we can consider sweater weather. Or if you're anything like me, if it's below 60, it's considered to be freezing. I, for one, love that I can wear my flip-flops 8 months out of the year. And if you're looking to get away from snow and freezing weather, but don't really want year-round sweltering heat, then Jacksonville is the place for you. Number 13, distance from other major cities. Being in the Southeast, Jacksonville is relatively isolated in terms of proximity to other major cities, which might be a downside for frequent travelers, but we do have some larger Florida cities that are fun to visit, like Orlando or Miami. And as I mentioned before, it's an easy drive to get to other more northern states. And Jacksonville International Airport has plenty of direct flights to cities like New York or Chicago, and is adding more direct flights as our city grows. Number 14, pest issues. So the warm climate also attracts pests like mosquitoes, palmetto bugs, and termites. This is just another part of living in Florida, and I promise it's really not that bad if you remember to wear mosquito repellent, especially if you're going to be outdoors in the hotter months or in wooded areas or at dawn or dusk. And I highly recommend having a screened-in lanai if you like being outside. Plan to have a regular pest control service as well as a termite bond on your home, and you should manage just fine. Number 15, wildlife encounters. Encounters with wildlife like alligators and snakes can be more common than what you're used to, which might be unsettling for some. I get it. We also have tons of little lizards that I have found can catch people off guard if you're not used to seeing them. Now, it's nothing like down in South Florida where giant iguanas can randomly fall out of the trees. These lizards are fairly small, 3 to 4 inches in length, but they're just everywhere. The good news is they eat the mosquitoes. And although we do have some venomous snake, most of the ones you'll come across are harmless and won't bother you. They also help take care of pests like mice or rats. And now finally, by far the strangest question I get more often than you'd think. How do we deal with all the alligators just walking down the street? The answer is we don't. Despite what you might see on the internet, we don't encounter alligators very often outside of their natural habitat. Now, I've seen very small ones in neighborhood ponds or when I'm boating on the St. Johns River, but I can assure you, at least here in Jacksonville, alligators walking down the streets or near our homes is not a frequent occurrence. Now, you should assume it's possible for alligators to be in any body of water. We have lakes, rivers, brackish water. It's not a good idea to splash or play at the water's edge, especially children or pets. But just stay aware of your surroundings, pay attention to signs or fenced off areas, and you should be able to avoid any danger. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you found these 15 things to know before moving to Jacksonville helpful. If so, please do me a quick favor and give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on what's happening in the area. And if I can help you at all with your move, call or text me. Until next time.